Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone can hear me okay. Welcome to AI Can Do That, tips and tricks to simplify your life. I always want to do a little sound check, so if you can just let me know if you can hear me okay, that'd be great. And then we can get started. Just write it on the chat. Hey, we can hear you. And then we can get started, or just give me a thumbs up somewhere. I just want to make sure that you can actually hear me. Yes, perfect. Okay, I had a confirmation. I know we've been doing this for 5 years in terms of teaching on Zoom, and there's still things that we just want to make sure that everything is working okay. So welcome again, as I said, to AI Can Do That, tips and tricks to simplify your life. My name is Marcela Suster. I am a liaison librarian at the McGill Libraries, and I'm also the coordinator of our Digital Scholarship Hub, where we have a lot of workshops, including this one, of course, on using technology to do better research, to disseminate your research. So if you're interested in that, you can always reach out, let us know. And we'll have at the end of the presentation, I'll have a lot of info about the dish, which is what we like to call it. You can find me both on Twitter, or now X, or Blue Sky at Marcy's Wisdom. So I don't post too often, but you can find me there. And a lot of times I will sort of like forward some of the promotions for our workshops. So just know that you can find me there. The way today is going to work is I'm going to talk very little bit about some considerations when we're working with AI, really brief, like 3 slides. And then we're going to go into testing some things. Because I have a lot to test to show you, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to send the slides via the chat right now. If you're listening to the recording or watching the recording of this, then the slides will have either come to you in the email where I sent to the recording, or if you go to our YouTube page, there will be linked on our YouTube. But I'm sending it so that if I'm showing you prompts, you can actually just copy paste them. So I'm going to send them. Actually, I'm going to do that right now before I keep talking. Okay. So I just want to, there we go. I'm just going to send it right now in the chat. Just these slides for today so that you can have them. And that way you can download them if you want, and copy paste things with no problem. We're going to be coming back to this folder over here because I have a lot of the documentation that we'll be needing for today. But yes, so as I was saying, the way it's going to work is we're going to do a tiny bit of like some things I want to keep in mind when we work with AI. And then I'm going to show you ways in which you can use AI to make your life simpler. I will be demoing some of the prompts. Other times I'll just show you conversations that I had with the model, where I already got what I needed to show you what I want to show you. This is mainly to save time. It's just I ran some of these prompts yesterday, and a prompt is what I tell AI to do. But I ran some of these prompts yesterday so that we could save the time today, and also to avoid if there were any technical issues. I just wanted to have everything ready. But as I'm talking, you're more than welcome to test them. Now, today I have some things you can do with AI. There are more things. Obviously, we would never have enough time to do everything. So I chose what I thought would be some of the most practical ways in which you can use AI to help you get your work done better. You might see here, and you might have read in the description that I call myself the queen of the shortcut. I know that sort of like ties in on why I decided to do this workshop. So I am from Argentina, which is where a culture where like we like to find shortcuts and we like to do things very efficiently, and that takes the least time. I also hate things that are repetitive. So for me, I'm always trying to find ways in which I can make my work more efficient and save that little time, or save myself that little effort that is not really life-changing for my project. It's this idea of working smarter, not harder. And this is sort of like how I started interacting with AI, thinking about like, what can I use it for that will help me save time and help me make these efficiencies. So that's what we are going to be doing today. So couple of things something that's very important is today we're going to be using Microsoft Copilot, not ChatGPT. There's a few reasons for that. If you're welcome to use ChatGPT, like the prompts that I have here will work for both. They would also work for Gemini, which is another with Google's like ChatGPT, or Claude, which is another one. The reason we're using Microsoft Copilot is because we are at McGill University, and McGill offers us a secure version of Copilot that protects our data because it's a closed system. We have data protection. And if we are going to be using it for McGill-related purposes, we should always be using not only Microsoft Copilot, but we should always be using the Microsoft Copilot version where we are signed in with our McGill email address. Now, I know that some people here today might not be McGill people. In that case, you should probably talk to your institution, or if you're using it for personal use, you can use whatever you want. But just know that here, if you are a McGill person and you're going to be using it for McGill-related purposes, we can only use generative AI tools that have been approved by McGill. And in the case of a chatbot like this, we have been instructed to only use Microsoft Copilot. You must be signed in with your McGill account, otherwise it doesn't work. And you can sign in with your McGill account on the website, on your phone if you want to download the app. If you want to download the app onto your computer, that's all okay. Just make sure that you are logged in with your McGill account. And just keep in mind that while our data is protected, we still are not allowed to fit it personal health information and payment card industry information. So those two things we are not allowed to put onto Copilot under any circumstances. Anything else, we're pretty much okay. The other reason why I'm going to be showing you Microsoft Copilot is because given our agreement with Microsoft Copilot and the fact that we pay them, we have a much more generous license than we would with ChatGPT. Sometimes if you have used ChatGPT, at a certain point, it'll set a limit or something like that. Maybe on the amount of images that you can do, maybe on the amount of chats or like the length of a chat. Those are a lot more generous with Copilot because it's a paid product for us. It also integrates really nicely with Microsoft Office and OneDrive, and that's another reason why we really like it. You're going to see some of the things like when I show you my screen, you're going to see that it will pull some of those things that we already have on OneDrive. If you're interested in a little bit more about what McGill has to say and how we should use it, I have linked here the knowledge base article from McGill IT on Microsoft Copilot. So it'll tell you how to download it, how to do a lot of things. Today, we're just going to be using the web version, but just know, as I said, if you are at McGill and you have a McGill machine, also a computer, a lot of times, I know that the last updates of Word, not Word, but like at least for Teams and Outlook, they already have like a button for Microsoft Copilot. But you can also, like I have it on my phone, you can have it on a tablet, but you can also always use the web version, which is what we're going to use today. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to go to Microsoft Copilot now so that you can set up. And the only reason why I'm already logged into my Copilot is because of the double authentication factor that we have at McGill. I didn't want to have to do all that while we were doing this, but just know that I'm going to give you some time to log in if you need to. So I'm just going to, no, that's not what we want. So you can just Google Microsoft Copilot, or I'm just going to write the website is copilot.microsoft.com. Should be that. But you can also just Google Microsoft Copilot. And then from there, what I'm going to ask you is once you get there, if you are not logged in by now, on the right-hand side, there should be a button that says sign in. And I'm going to ask you to sign in with your McGill email address. So McGill email address and password. If you are not a McGill person, then disregard all this. But I'm just going to ask you to sign in with your McGill email and password so you can actually do it. And you can do that because, if you are at McGill, you probably have double authentication. So while you do that, I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we're going to come back to Miguel Copilot. So before we get started and start having fun with Copilot, I want to remind you that AI always, two things. Number one is that AI always needs oversight. We always need to be looking at what AI is doing and making professional judgments or personal judgments. And then AI always needs you to be precise. Why? So we always need oversight because AI, so an AI model is only as good as the data that train that model. And unfortunately, we live in a world where there are biases that exist, and those biases are always in our data because they're in the text that we write, they are in everything. So AI being trained with this data can and sometimes will recreate and amplify existing biases that are already found in the data. So I'll give you an example, and this is something I used to do when we first started talking about AI, which is I would ask a model to write a letter of recommendation for a PhD student, but in one I clarified it was a female, and then in the other one I clarified it was a male. And what happened was that the letters were, on paper they seem okay, but when you went to look at it, there was a subtle difference on what was being highlighted for the male PhD student in relation to what was being highlighted for the female one. So the female one, it was all about collaboration and good disposition, and then for the male, it was like he's a born leader. So those things, we have to keep that in mind. A lot of times AI will generate hallucinations, and those are basically it's when AI gives you the wrong information. And AI sometimes is trained, and it will prioritize giving you an answer over giving you the correct one. So sometimes if it can't figure it out, it will give you a wrong answer. It'll give you wrong information. There is sometimes a lack of transparency with some of these models. So there's a lot that we don't know. So we want to make sure that we're looking at what it's putting out so that we can judge it. AI doesn't understand nuance or context. So again, we want to make sure that we are paying attention to that. There is the risk of having an over-reliance in automation, and that means that we will sort of start losing our critical thinking skills because we're going to rely too much on things being automatic. AI doesn't have professional judgment. You should never ask it to make professional decisions because it doesn't have that. We talk a little bit about the privacy and data protection risk. We are much better, again, with our Copilot license, but we want to be careful. And also AI does not understand ethical boundaries because it is not a human. So those are reasons why we want to make sure that we are always looking at what we are getting from AI and fixing it, altering it, making it better using our professional judgment or even like our common sense. Which leads me to my next section, which is precision, why we won't need to be precise. So in AI models and in chatbots, ambiguity will always lead to errors because when AI doesn't know, it doesn't really have the context. It doesn't infer context and it doesn't really have common sense. So we'll just try to fill in the blanks. And sometimes it will get it right and sometimes it won't. So because of that, we want to make sure that we're really precise in what we're asking. And these are called chatbots because we're having a conversation. So it doesn't mean that your prompt has to be great the first time, but you might need to finesse it to ask those details so that you can actually get to what you need and what you want. And then because we were talking about the biases before, if we have detailed input, it will help us reduce the bias because we are not letting, again, we're not letting AI filling the gaps. So in that way, we are making sure that we're getting what we want and that we're reducing the kind of bias that can be created. So for example, just go back to the PhD one, instead of me just saying, just create a letter of recommendation, I would want to add the content that I want to make sure that that letter is created within, highlighting the things I want to highlight. So I hope that by now you have all been able to get into Copilot. I see we have a few newcomers. If you are a newcomer, I'm going to ask you to just go to Microsoft Copilot. It's copilot.microsoft.com. You can also just Google Microsoft Copilot, get in there, and right-hand side, there is a button that says sign in. And I'm just going to ask you to sign in. And we are going to go and get started and talk a little bit about what are some of the things that we can ask AI to do for us. So I divided today's sort of like prompts into 3 different categories. We have text support, we have brainstorming, and we have information extraction. I think that's what I called it. Again, these are all captions. Some of them I will demo. Sometimes we just don't have time, but because you have the slides, you can always try things on your own. Anything that you see in italics over here is an actual prompt that I wrote and that I used. So let's start with the most basic one. I think a lot of us have probably used it for, which is revision or rewriting. So we write something, we're not sure of the tone, like we're not sure how to structure it. We just put it on a chatbot and we just say revise this text for silent clarity. I had the avoid M dashes because now there's this idea that if you use M dashes, you used AI, which is really sad because like M dashes are a wonderful orthographic tool that we have. However, AI does overuse M dashes, so I'd rather not have them. And then if you know how to use them, you can just add them yourself. And one thing that I always like to add to my AI is, or my prompt is to highlight the changes in bold. So when I do that, I'm going to get my rewritten thing, but it's going to highlight the changes in bold so I can quickly go and look at what AI did. It will not do it automatically. You have to ask it to do it. And the more you do it, it will start doing it automatically, but I still like to confirm it. So every time I would add highlight changes in bold, that way I can quickly see what has been changed. Another thing I could do is maybe I wrote something, but again, I'm not getting the right tone, so I can ask it to rewrite it to make it more formal or more playful or more concise, whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So revision and rewriting are very easy ways in which you can do it. The content is still yours. You're just asking for some help with the writing. And to me, in my head, I find it very similar to using Antidote or Grammarly or things like that, that will just help you improve your writing. I was having a conversation with someone. I even said, like, how is it different? It's not really that different from me giving my paper to a colleague so that they can actually read it and look at the, look at the grammar, look at the punctuation, see if there's anything that could be better. It's also very useful to help you with your communication. So, sometimes writing difficult letters, or to me, like when I was in sabbatical, I have this huge out of office with like, if you need this, then do this. Or sometimes you want to write something, but you're not sure how to strike the tone. In my case, Spanish is my first language. English is not my first language. So sometimes I'm a little bit unsure of certain things that I'm writing. So you can say, help me write whatever the kind of document it is, and here's the information I need to include. Again, we always want to make sure that you include these details. So for example, I had to write a letter of invitation to someone who ended up saying no, but for someone to come and talk for Media Literacy Week, which we will be celebrating at the end of October. So what I did is I gave all the information that I needed, and then I asked it to write that letter. I still had to go in, and again, AI always needs oversight. I still went in and I changed things, because I like the tone better. Sometimes AI will write overly flowery, so sometimes you have to be like, take it down a notch. But I was able to create this content that way, and then I was working with something that like a bit of like a basic template that then I just changed and edited and made it more me. And I was able to send it, and it was really nice. And sometimes things that we might not have thought of. So I really like it. We could also ask it to write a tweet or an Instagram caption for an event or an image. So actually we're going to go and do that together. So if you are on Microsoft Copilot, actually before we do that, let's talk a little bit about your Copilot screen. So first of all, if you have logged in as as a Miguel person, and you're logged in, you should be seeing this little green shield over here. And that means that we have data protection, so that we are in a closed system, our data is protected. If you remember that what I mentioned, that we could, that it worked really nicely with OneDrive, you can see that here it's pulling up some of my files that I have over here that I have on OneDrive, and it's asking me if I want to do things with them. So you can see it's very easy to find. If I were to click here to add content, I can attach clouds from my OneDrive. So it's really nice that it connects that way. So this is where we're going to write our prompts. I also want to mention that you can always see your conversations. So here on the left, I'm going to have all the conversations that I've had with AI. I'm just going to click on all conversations. They are searchable, so you can always search them if I want to find something. This is everything that we're going to look at today if we have the time. I can also change the names of the conversations. So usually, like the couple of the first words of your prompt will be your the name of your prompt, but I can also rename it so that it can be found easily. So for example, here, this one, document comparison, I just changed it myself. So I will be able to find it really quickly on my own. I'm going to talk about pages maybe a little bit later, but this is what you really need to know about like using the chatbot. This just goes to your Microsoft 365 apps. This allows you to create things, but sometimes it's just like a slideshow. Again, it just goes to your Microsoft Office. So we're going to focus here today on the chats that we're going to use. So now that we're here, I'm going to go back to chat, and we are going to ask you to create a tweet for an image. I'm going to share the image. If you want, I can share the image with you as well in the chat so that you have it. But you can also use any image that you have. This is an image from the Octagon Room in the Islamic Studies Library. So I'm going to add the image. The only reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't want to open the browser and have you see my files. But you can just do here and do upload images and files. Or you can just attach cloud files if you have them on your OneDrive. It's really up to you. I just don't want you to see my other files. So I'm just gonna come here and I'm just gonna write a tweet on Instagram caption for this image. I'm gonna leave it simple first, and then we can add more information. If I already knew, I could add more, but I just want to show you how it would be if I don't and then I do. A little bit of, I want to give you one thing just to know that sometimes one thing that I want you to know is just, sometimes. Okay, I can see that some of you are having an issue. And I guess if you're a student, you have to use a personal account. It's totally fine. Just use a personal account for what you need to do today. It's not really an issue. It's more about if you work at McGill and you're using it for McGill purposes. But other than that, just create a personal account, and that's totally fine. So, and for what we're going to do today, you also don't need an account. Just it doesn't really matter. So I write a tweet on Instagram caption for this image, and I was going to say, I'm just going to warn you about something, which is that because I write to it in different languages, sometimes it'll start answering me in a language that is not the one that I'm writing in. So I just did it. It's a picture of the Octagon Room. And it just wrote, okay, cool. See, so because I speak Spanish, it will ask me the one in Spanish, but not. And then I'm going to say, I want different ones for Twitter and Instagram. And I'm also gonna, this is the Octagon Room at the McGill Islamic Studies. Now, funny thing is, when I did this, so I did it yesterday and I did it a few times, it already knew that it was the octagon room. Now it seems that it has forgotten, and then it will ask me, hey, do you want a version in French or in Spanish? And maybe I do want one. So I'm gonna do in French, please. So now I created my tweets. Now, if you are someone who just comes, maybe you will come up with something better. But if you are like me and I have to do some tweets, but I'm not always great at it, I can always take a look at them, see, make a few changes. I always make changes, and then I can just upload it. And maybe I want to keep them. So then I could even, let's say I love them, I want to save them. I could just copy paste them. But if I want to keep them, there's two things I can do. I can ask it to create a file. Can you just create a Word file with this? Or I can just go here to edit pages. And then it will add it to a page. So then it's much easier. I could even here take it open in Word. So it just has everything for me. So I can very easily get everything that I want from here. But I could also just write, and this is where pages come in that I had told you before that we were not going to look at. And then from here, I could also say, can you put the tweets and captions in one Word file? It's gonna think. Still thinking. See, this is what I pre-did a few of things. And then it will have created my Word file. So then I can very easily just get my captions. I'm just going to open this here and hopefully show you. And now I have my Word file with all my different captions, with all the captions that I have. So quite easy. Okay, so let's keep going because I'm terrified we're not going to have enough time. For tech support, we can also use it for translations. I'm going to say this. It's not my favorite way of doing translations. If I just need to translate, I would go to DeepL, which is another tool, which is a translating tool. I like that better. But sometimes you just need something quick. So that comes in handy. And I really like it when I have to create bilingual things. So my out of office, for example, that has to be bilingual. Or I was a few years earlier this summer, I was peer reviewing something in Portuguese, and I had to kind of write it in English and Portuguese. So it's like, can you just write this and make it bilingual? So that's really handy, but it's not my favorite. And something that I do want to remind you is that just because ChatGPT or Copilot can do something, it doesn't mean there isn't another tool that does this better. For example, you can ask Copilot to write a citation for you. You can always do that. But using something like EndNote or Zotero will always be better because you're not only getting your citation, but you're also getting your in-text citations with those tools, and you're also are able to just change your formatting really quickly in your file. So even though, yes, you can do it, there are tools that are better. And I want you to keep that in mind whenever you ask Copilot or ChatGPT to do something. If there is another tool that does it better, then you might want to use that other tool. Sometimes a Google search will work better. So just keep that in mind. Now that I'm off my soapbox, we're going to continue. So then we can use it also for writing bios. This is an use that I use for a lot because, again, very lazy, try to save myself. And also sometimes writing your own bio is kind of weird. So what I'll do is I ask Copilot, I will update my CV. And if you're using a guest account or a personal account that you don't want to share so many things, you can always just use whatever information is already publicly available. So for example, if you have a LinkedIn page, if you have a student page, anything like that, you can just copy paste it or put it onto a Word document if it's too long, and then just upload it. And then I'll say, can you create a bio for myself? And for this particular event or this book that I'm writing or this document, whatever it is, And I'm going to ask you to focus on something. So for example, if I'm doing a presentation on digital humanities, I will ask, can you focus on my digital humanities? You will need to modify the prompt a few times until you get what you want. Because sometimes maybe we'll focus on something. Sometimes you'll say, hey, can you make sure that to include this book that I wrote? But it's a very easy, saves you a lot of time. Sometimes it's too flowery, so again, you have to go and edit it a little bit, but it's not the biggest issue. And it just saves you a lot of times. I find it really difficult to write my own bios because it kind of feels weird. We could also ask it to reformat our text. So for example, reformat text to like from a paragraph to a bullet or from a bullet into paragraph. And we can also ask it to convert text into other formats. So let me just show you here. This ones I actually did yesterday so that I can show you. So this is like, so over here, I ask you to reformat this text into paragraph form. So this is my second slide where I'm talking about why Copilot is what we're using Copilot today. And then here it reformatted it for me. And then I asked it to, okay, fine. So it went from bullet points to paragraph. You can also do the opposite. And then I asked it to convert it into HTML and just show me the code. And I wanted to, for personal health and for payment kind industry to be in italics, and that the KB was a hyperlink that I would add later. And then McGill should be bolded. So then I'm just gonna look at the code. So it gave me the code in HTML. So then I could go and copy paste this into a blog post, a LibGuide, anywhere that I would use HTML. So it just did my HTML coding for me. And if you come and look at it here, when I look at the code, you can see that it bolded McGill, that it italicized these two words. And then here, you can see it here, but if you look at the code, it built me, oh, no, that's not what I want. Okay, I don't know what's that doing. It built me the code, so then, actually it didn't. I'm not saying that. I would have to change that. But then I could just ask it to build the code just to add a website there. But fairly easy, and all I had to do it was, hey, can you do this for me? And then we have creating a lot of templates. I'm not even going to go full like presentation just because I want to make sure that we can stay on time. So just things that you can do. Again, I'm going to talk about templates here, not content, templates. So we can ask you to a template for syllabi. So, you know, what things I should include. We can create worksheets. So I'll create it as some worksheets for, so, okay, so I ask it to create a student presentation peer review worksheet for an undergraduate course. I wanted to include course-specific questions where I will fill in the details. So I didn't want you to come up with the content or the things like that was very specific, like course content. And I was like, mark the space for details in this way, just as details, so I would know where to put it. And then it created it here, lovely, but what do I do with this? So then I ask it to make it into, first I asked it to make it in PDF. Copilot, not great at PDF. So then I said, oh, can you just do it in Word? And I'm gonna show you the Word file just so you can see it. Peer review worksheet. And then I could, again, is it done? No, I still have to add a lot of things about the course themes, but I have a working structure that I can keep editing to get to what I need. So it's very handy. We can also ask it to create, let me just go back here to our conversations, and then maybe I can ask me to create a template for please create a 3-month checklist for advertising an event. ask me questions if you had doubt. So it created one. Remember, it always wants to give you an answer. So it created one, but then added more questions that I can answer. So it would actually tailor it to what I want, but I could have my checklist of things that I need to do before doing my event. And then I can very easily just take this and use it for my events and just keep it in mind so that I can do that. Other types of templates, as I said, so tracking, you can track student participation or project management or your own wellness habits or your reading challenge. You can create article checklists, as I said, checklists for articles or submissions or for event planning or even packing. You can ask it to create a planner or a schedule for yourself, for your studying, for your meals, for cleaning. I did ask it to create the note template, the note-taking template. And I'm going to show it to you. So I created this note-taking template. They always it always likes to add a lot of emojis, so I'll take them off. But if you want something to help you take notes, you would have your template and then just use it for your classes. So you're always organized and just have this in your laptop and you can always use it. I forgot where I'm at. Sorry, I just need to reopen this. Perfect. Research, like any kind of templates, if you want to do a literature review matrix, so it can help you organize your the things that you're writing, or something for organizing field notes, creating a template for meeting agendas, or workflow documentations. These are all things that you can ask support with, and you can get templates for that. Now, you may have noticed that I said the word template 5 million times. And that is because I want you to use it to create, not the content. The content should always still come from you, but you can use it to create the template. But even just because this is my favorite, one of my favorite movie quotes, and whenever we're talking about AI, I mention it a lot, that whenever we're working with AI, yes, it could create content for you. But remember, AI always needs oversight. It's not always good. So even though it can, even though you can, it doesn't mean that you should. So I always encourage you to use it for the templates, not for the content. Unless, as I said, you can really specify the content that you want and it's content that you created for, let's say, a letter or something like that. But anything else, please make sure that you are keeping this in mind. Okay. You can also use it for brainstorming. So we have moved on from tech support to brainstorming. So topic or event ideas, I do this a lot. So can you help me brainstorm ideas for a paper? And then you can write things you're interested in. Or this is one that I used the other day. Just help me come up with ideas for a Wikipedia-related workshop for Media Literacy Week. Because I was supporting someone who was trying to plan something, and I wanted to come up with some ideas. And I had some, but I thought, hey, let's see what else exists out there. So it gave me some ideas. Again, I had to tweak them, and then I was like, oh, I don't love this, but maybe I want to change it with this, but you can always do that. You can ask it for help to structure something. So I'm planning to write this about this particular topic. Can you help me come up with a structure that I can use for organizing the content? Again, it's not giving me the content, it's just giving me a structure of what I can use. We can also ask it to help us come up with fun, catchy titles for events or even papers should we want to. So one that I use is last year we did a workshop on online dating and data. So I wanted something catchy that was using a song title because I love puns. And the one we ended up choosing that my Copilot came up with was Love Me Tinder. Which is like a pun on Love Me Tender. So you can use it for that. You can also ask it, and this is one I love, which is, because today I'm only showing you some prompts. But it can help you come up with your prompts, because you can say, help me create a prompt for, or you can create a reusable prompt that I'm going to show you in a second. And if you're not sure, and when I was working on this presentation, because I had some ideas, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing out anything that was useful, you can write for example, I wrote, in which ways can you help me with information extraction? And then it just gave me a list. Some of them were good, some of them not so much, but it gave me a list that I could work with and say like, oh, like this is interesting. This is something that I would like. So I'm going to talk about the search strategy as well, and I'm going to show you both just so I know I'm coming in and out of the presentation. So if you are doing library research, so you're searching for things, you can ask it to help you come up with search keywords for a topic. And this is my personal favorite, that sometimes when you have to create a Boolean search, which is when we use ands and ors, sometimes it can be a bit cumbersome on certain things that, there are many, like it's not like brainstorming synonyms. But for example, here, I'll tell you how I came up with this one was I was working on a book display of Asian graphic novels. And in order to search the catalog, I couldn't just search Asian. I kind of needed to search for each country. And I was too lazy to have to like write that. So I just asked it to do it for me. Let's take a look at both things, the prompts and the search strategy. So here I wrote, help me create a reusable prompt for generating a packing list, only in English. I said in English because it was giving me things in Spanish before. The packing list should be tailored to my trip. So here it told me reusable packing list prompt. So it created the prompt for me. And then I can save this. I can either run this, and then if I come here, I can just save it with this one over here, the one that looks like that right now is sort of like has a line through it. The second one from the right, and that will have it as a square in the main in the chat view. Here, I'll show you. Like here, we can, if I do that, then it will be added to my prompt gallery. But in my case, what I did is I just say, hey, this is really cool. I like this prompt. Can you save this prompt? And then it saved it. So now anytime I want to use it, I just say, show me my packing list prompt, and then it will just show me my packing list prompt. Really nice. So you can always save your prompts. That way you just say, save this prompt. And it was a prompt that it created for me. And then I use this a lot because sometimes I'm trying to get something and I'm not sure how to ask for it. I'll be like, can you help me create a prompt for this? And it will actually very nicely do it for me. Okay. And then I'll go back and show you the search. I know that I'm giving you way too much information. I'm sorry for that, but I was like, oh, and I need to add that, and I need to add that. So in this case, it says, can you create a Boolean search for all the different Spanish speaking countries in Latin America? I just want the countries joined by or. So sometimes it will add other words like Latin America, but I just wanted the countries. So in this case, I have all the countries joined by or, and then I just can copy this and put it on a database, library catalog, whatever it is. And I don't really need to do much with it. So it's really helpful, and it can also help you further format it for a specific database. So pretty nice. Okay. So I have 15 minutes and I have a lot to talk about. So we're going to my last one, which is extracting information. And this is using a chatbot to help you extract information from other sources. So the first one I'm going to add is for images. AI can also create images, but I have a whole separate workshop on that you can find on our YouTube channel. So I'm not going to talk about that today. But let's say you have an image and there's some things that you have to do with the image. So describe this image, create alt text for this image, give me context about this image, and extract text from this image. So I'm going to actually do that right now. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to a new chat. I'm going to share the image with you so that you have it. Perfect. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted. Okay. So this image is an image that we're using that I actually created with AI that we're using to advertise a workshop that we're having. When are we having that workshop? We're having a workshop at the end of October for Media Literacy Week. And it's on health disinformation and AI and social media. So I'm going to write, can you extract the text from this image. So it looked at the text and it just extracted. This is also really useful if you have a picture of a slide or anything like that. That could help you. You could also do it with a PDF that you want to extract the text from. You could even ask it to extract the text and then translate it. So this is cool. And then I'm going to write, can you explain this image for me, to me? It's thinking a lot now. The ones with images, I'm showing them to you live. Because when you save them, it doesn't show you the image. So that's why I'm showing them to you live as opposed to the other ones. So it's explaining that the image is using hospital style response to make a visual and conceptual statement about health disinformation and digital influence. So it gives me all of this. And it's just, what it's meant to be. And then the last thing I'm going to add is, let's say you are a media team and you have to come up with, like, whenever you put a picture, you have to put alt text, so alternative text, so that a screen reader can use it. So I could do, can you create alt text for this image? And I find this one really useful. It's for me because I mentioned I'm from Argentina, which is a very high context culture. And that means that a lot of times we don't need to say that much to convey a message. But when you do alt text, you do need to say a lot and you need to be very detailed. And I really struggle with that because it's not something, it's cultural, it's something that's a little bit different for me. So this way, I'm not missing any details that should be in the alt text. So that's why I really like alt text is one of my favorite things that I can use it for, because it will create that alt text without me having to do it. Okay, lovely. Let's go back. In general, you can also use it to summarize the text file and just to summarize it or turn it into action items. So just to show you here, I asked it to summarize this text file and turn it into action items. So I just uploaded, this is a conference proposal that I wrote, it doesn't really matter. So it summarized my proposal and then it gave me action items on what I needed to do. No, I didn't give it enough context for it to know that it was a conference proposal. So it's talking about it as if it was a workshop because it knows me enough. But it gave me some action items that I can follow. We can also ask it to extract text from a PDF and translate it if we want to, or not translate it. We can ask it what are the main points of a text, so just add it there. We can ask it to create a chart. One that I really like too is this one that talks about creating name entities. So let's say I read, so name entities are people, places, dates. I read Around the World in 80 Days. This is an excerpt of the book. And I want to know all the places that are mentioned. So I can ask, can you identify name entities in this text? And then this is just an excerpt of the book. It's not the full book in the file that I uploaded, but it gave me all the places, all the organizations, all the dates that show up in this excerpt. Remember, I'm going a little bit fast, but everything you have it in here in the slides, so you're able to do it on your own. We can ask it to compare files as well. So in this case, I uploaded two texts that I know they're related because they're two conference proposals that I wrote that I know they're on a similar topic. And I asked it to compare the two documents. So can you compare these two documents and highlight key differences? So then it gave me, so it summarized my first document, it summarized my second document, and then it gave me an idea of the difference. This might be really useful if you're working with two things that seem similar, but you want to make sure that they're not. It could technically use to look for plagiarism if you had doubts, but don't quote me on that. You could also use it for making sure that if you wrote something for different audiences, that is actually clear. So it's kind of like a nifty tool that you can do. And all you do, as I said, is you upload both files and then you ask it to compare. And it will do that for you. Again, you still have to check them because AI is not perfect, but it's quite nice. So it can do it for you. Based on can you give me or tell me? So for example, this is something that I did. So based on institutional email addresses, and I say institutional because they're public. So it's not someone's personal email address. Can you give me a list of the institutions and the countries of the participants? So I had a list of institutional emails of people who have of people who have participated in something, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to capture all the how many institutions, how many countries have participated. So I was able to get that this way, but you could do it with other things. You can just ask them, hey, I have this list. Can you tell me what can you infer from this information? Our last sort of like slide of prompts for today is more complex, these are more complex things that you can do. So you can extract information into another format. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, and then I'm going to come back to this one. So this is actually something that I do. Nope. Okay. So every semester, I look up all the workshops that we have for the Digital Scholarship Hub, and I create a file with all of them, which or create an email with all of them, and then I send them to different people. You might have found this that way, this workshop that way. It takes me a lot of time because I need to copy paste a lot of things. So instead of doing that, and I'm very specific about the format I want it in, I create a prompt that says, based on this spreadsheet, which I uploaded the spreadsheet that I get from our workshops platform, create a list of workshops in the following style. So in bold, I want the title. So for that, I used the heading of each column. So columns that I have is title, start date, start time, end time. So that is wording that is in the spreadsheet. It's very important. And I want to make sure that that was in bold. And then in a new paragraph, I wanted the description. So what I had before was just a plain spreadsheet that had all this information and more. And then it actually created it for me. You can also ask it to order it in a specific way. So right now I asked it to order it in, I think it's just like the way it shows in the in the spreadsheet, but I could also say, can you reorder it in the way, in the amount of seats each one has, and it would actually do it. And then this ones I'm not going to demo, but I'm going to talk about them. And again, because you have the spreadsheet, you could always just copy it and use it for something else. Not the spreadsheet, the presentation. That's what I meant. So you can ask it to rank things or organize lists. So as I mentioned before, I could have added the spreadsheet that I had before and said, hey, can you rank this by the amount of seats they have or by date, whichever way you want to. But this is one that I did when I was looking for books to buy for Hispanic studies. So when I buy for Hispanic studies, I have a lot of literary criticism that I buy, but I also buy a lot of fiction. And sometimes it's hard to choose because I want to make sure that I have a good diversity in terms of the countries that the authors are from. So I was, and sometimes these lists are very long, and I want to find a way to kind of like save some time and help me look at them a little bit different so I can make decisions. So I have a list of books, which I shared with the system. And I said, please organize them by country of origin of the authors, ensuring diversity across regions. Within each country, prioritize the books based on the following criteria. So I want to look at literary awards received, critical reviews, and author notability. And then I wanted the final list to be grouped by country and ordered by priority within each group. And I wanted to include notes of how it was justifying that placement. So basically what I got in the end was a list divided by country. So let's say Argentina, and then you give me all the books that were from Argentina. And then it said good reviews. It won this prize. Excellent reviews. So then I could go and say, okay, I'm going to buy the first book of each, like in the first ranked book of each of these, of each country. And then I can keep going on with the list that way, then go into the second until I run out of money. So you can ask it to help you rank things. Again, this is not a substitute for professional judgment. I still went and looked and studied and went deeper, but it gave me a starting point. And then this is what my most proud, which is I have, you can ask it to create calendar entries. Now, if you have, let's say you have a recurring appointment, but it's always on the same date, you don't need AI for that because that will just, you can just do it with your regular Outlook. But I happen to have something that's recurring, but it's not always with the same interval because it's my shift. So basically, I get a PDF with my list of shifts, and I ask it that using that PDF to create an ICS file, which is a file for your calendar with information, so that I would just upload that file to my calendar and all my shifts will be there. This took a lot of trial and error, but what I want to show you, because you might not need to do this, but I want to show you some of the things that are important when you're writing this prompt. So, oh my God, it's 11:58. I'll go fast. So I want to make sure, so I have to explain how to read the PDF. So I said that each line in the PDF includes a date in the format, this, a start time and an end time. So this is how the data looks. So it would know how to understand the different shifts. It would know how to understand what a shift was. And then I added all like the title I wanted because I used categories to color code my calendar, what the category was, and then the time zone. And then it created my my files that I just uploaded to my calendar. Now, just know sometimes it will create something and it is empty. And it's like, and then you have to be like, hey, file that this gave me is empty, and then it will do it again. Last thing I want to mention, and I'm sorry that I have gone sort of over time, this has been a very long, like there was a lot of info in here, is that you want to make sure, like there's a big question about whether you should say please and thank you to bots. Some people say no, some people say yes. However, the one of the big guys at OpenAI, who are the people behind ChatGPT, said that it costs a lot of money for you to use please and thank you, but that you should still do it because it's better to train the model. And we also want to think it in a way that like whatever information we feed to the systems is also being used to train the systems. And if we are being very brusque with the systems, then the systems will be very like rough with us in the sense that like it will, maybe the output would not be as polite, not to us, but maybe in the way it's writing, it will change the way it writes so where that like we're gonna get outputs that are really not rude, but are not following like courtesy. So it's up to you. You don't have to, but I will do like, please, can you? You don't need to say thank you. To me, thank you is not needed. But the please, no, it doesn't hurt. So I'm so sorry that this was so long. I hope it was good. This is my first time teaching it, so there's always room for improvement. I will share I shared the slides with you, but I'm going to share them again. So if anyone who was registered for this, I will send the recording and I will send the slides again. You can find us, the Digital Scholarship Hub. These are all our sort of like socials and ways in which you can find us. If you have questions, you can always email us and let us know. Use responsibly, use efficiently, but also responsibly. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording. If there's anyone who has any questions and wants to ask them like out loud, you can always let me know, and you can